You're listening to the More Movement Crew podcast, Season 3, Purpose Stories. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and enjoy. Welcome to the More Movement Crew podcast. My name is Kenina Porter, and this is episode 3. I'm excited. We're back. It's been a minute since I've done a podcast, so I'm happy to be back. And we got a special guest for you that I'm sure you are going to love. So before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to this podcast. So like it, share it, all of that, because we want to make sure that you're connected to the More Movement Crew family. So welcome again, and we're just going to jump right into it. So before I introduce our special guest, who is a very, very interesting guest, so you're gonna love him. We're gonna play a game called 5 Questions. So special guest, are you ready for this game?
I'm ready.
All right. So question number 1: name a place you have visited that had a significant impact on you and why.
That's pretty interesting. I think the most impactful place that I went to, and I think it was more so because of the duration I was there. So I was there for 13 months, but it was Afghanistan. And so it was like one of those, I went in the Army, and so it was one of those situations where it was a lot of time to kind of just be in your solitude. And so it was a really interesting place because the Army is always a hurry up and wait situation. So like you have a lot of time where you rush, but then like you also have a lot of time where you just kind of sitting and waiting on pins and needles. And so a lot of that time gave me time to reflect on like who I am and like who I aspire to be and like what I'm doing with myself and my life and, you know, what's the meaning of life and everything else. And so I think just being in a place where like you met a lot of interesting people, there was a lot of culture to be explored. And then just the idea of like being in this place where a lot of history has happened for real. So like it was one of those situations where I felt like I did a lot of personal internal reflection, but then also did like a lot of like my place in the world type of exploration too. So Afghanistan was it for me. So like it was really cool.
I would have never guessed that you were going to say Afghanistan. I would have guessed any other country, but that. So that's a good fun fact.
Yeah.
So next question. Name a place you would like to visit and why.
I met I met them a long time ago, but I just recently helped do Eden and Kissy's their storefront. And so I just was kind of talking to them and kind of really getting an idea where they're from because they're like French speaking and they actually they're from the Ivory Coast, I believe. But it was just a really beautiful place and like it's super cold outside. And so I think I'm like having an epiphany that I really need to be on a beach somewhere for the rest of my life or at least during the winter months. And so like it really looked like one of those destination places where you could really go and kind of absorb the culture, but then also kind of I guess relax and soak up some of that beach life. I think I'm a beach bum at heart.
That sounds amazing, actually. And we can't forget good food.
Great food. Like, that place is so good. Like I could probably eat it every day.
It really is. That's one of my favorite restaurants too. All right, so next question. I have been dying to ask you this question because I want to know what your responses are.
Wow.
Top 5 rappers of all time in your book.
So that's an interesting question because like I'm not really a fan of a lot of the new people. And so I'm really, I think older driven, but like I like a few newer people. So like I'm gonna say number 5 is kind of split between 2 people for real. So um, I'd say Toby and Wigway and Big Crit. Both of them are like my number 5. And then I'm gonna say for 4, I'd probably say like Kevin Gates, just because like I feel like he's like a very principled person, and like some of the stuff that he raps about is kind of like far end of the spectrum, but like I feel like he is very like grounded in principle, and so like I think that's one thing that's kind of missing from the element of rap now, like or and even in like generalized culture for real, like in America, they really don't have a lot of principle based ideas, or um, it seems like it's absent for real. So like I do enjoy that, like he's very centered in like principles and everything else. And then 3, I would say like Tupac. Um, 2, I would say um, probably Most Def, and then 1, I'd probably say 3 Stacks.
Ah,
Yeah,
wow. I guess some of them I did expect. Big Crit, I definitely expected to be on that list.
yeah,
Tupac is, I mean, there's no explanation. You don't even need to have one
right.
for Tupac. But Most Def, mm,
Most Def is really interesting.
yeah,
Like he's very versatile. Like he's
yeah.
a Renaissance man for real. So like I just enjoy that. Like he kind of touches on a lot of different topics, but
Mm-hmm.
then like um, he breaks it down a lot too. Like it's a little intellect added into it.
I'm trying to think of like location wise. Big Crit is from the South, right?
Right.
So then you got Most Def New York.
Yeah.
So you kind of a little bit everywhere. You didn't just stay East Coast
Yeah, I'm all over the
with your
place.
picks. I'm mostly East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for real.
So I like a lot of East Coast too. So I'm a Rakim fan, and
Hmm.
then like I like Jay-Z as well, but I think probably like 6 and 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the first rap, well, it was a group that I liked that was from the South was Outkast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I was like, oh okay, I can rock with the South now.
Yeah.
Like, and not really like West Coast. I really wasn't really feeling either, but it was mostly just East Coast, and then it was, well, I guess Atlanta, right? The rest of the world in Atlanta.
That's weird because like so I was really introduced to rap through my uncle, and like he used to listen to like everything West Coast. So, like
NWA,
NWA, E40, Too Short, like all of those
Ice T.
guys. Not necessarily Ice T. I wasn't really feeling
Oh,
Ice T.
okay.
Like he's kind of whack for real. But like yeah, like NWA, Too Short mainly, E40. Like all those dudes are classics. Like their music is timeless. Like you can still like pop some of that same
Like
stuff
DJ
in.
Quick.
I wasn't really
You
a
like
DJ
DJ
Quick
Quick?
fan. Like nah. And then like the perm thing kind of threw me for a loop too. Like it was like I just wasn't feeling it. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I could see that. I mean, I don't know. It just, I guess it depends. I mean, the '90s, like, I was exposed to a lot of militant hip hop. That was my first one. So it was like Public Enemy, um, X Clan,
yeah,
like really militant
yeah,
hip hop. So, Boogie Down Productions,
yeah. KRS-One.
KRS-One,
Yeah,
like a lot of that was like really influential in that time. So that's kind of, I don't know. I don't know what my top 5 would be. That's why I couldn't wait to hear what your top 5 would be. But Black Thought would be in one of those.
absolutely. Yeah, he's so like I feel like he's one of those like gym MCs for real. Kind of the same way with Jay Electronica, Tech Nine. Like I'm a hip hop head for real. Like I love like all good music that has some form of substance to it. But like you can't really. I don't feel like I could sit and just listen to an entire album of Jay Electronica, or I couldn't sit and listen to an entire album of Tech Nine. Like a Jay-Z album, you can put it on and you can ride it from front to back, and like a Big Crit
Depends
album.
on which one.
Get out of there.
I throw a little shade when it comes to Jay-Z.
I know. I noticed that.
But, wait. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question. But I actually really, really thought that, like, lyrically, a couple of years ago, I would have put Lil Wayne before he, kind of wilded out. But the Carter album, the last one, what was it? It was the Carter.
Yeah, Carter 5.
The Carter 5.
Yeah.
Those albums, like...
Yeah, like, I mean, he has, like... So, granted, he has a unique style, and I think he kind of evolved rap, but he's just not one of those where it's just like... In my age right now, like, I can't listen to him.
In your age, but was you playing, like... Back in the day when like the block was hot,
yeah, big time
came out.
I mean, you had to like. I mean, Cash Money really took over for the 99 and 2000.
It is. I never liked Cash Money. That's the funny part.
How can you not?
I never liked Cash Money.
Like, I can't fathom like the 90s existing without Cash Money.
I just was not feeling them. I was on like, what was I listening to?
Like, it was either Cash Money or No Limit. Like,
was like Bone Thugs out then?
They were kind of prior to.
So I just really wasn't feeling it. I felt like it was like if you look at Cash Money album cover to this day, it was like it's doing way too much.
Yeah.
It's like it's doing a lot. It like make them say like I just was like,
nah. That was No Limit though.
Oh, No Limit. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't feeling that whole. I'm telling you, I stick to certain regions.
But I think everybody was using the same graphic designer in that era. Like everybody's album cover relatively looks the same for real. Like they were using the exact same person to do everybody's album cover, and so all of it looked pretty much the same. Like the block lettering with like the diamonds in it, and like
too much.
A foreign car and like a half naked chick on the cover. So like
they probably got that from Uncle Luke.
That too.
But you didn't say big.
Oh, like to me, like his library wasn't really big enough.
Yeah.
So he only had Ready to Die and Life After for real. Mm-hmm. And both of those were classic albums to me. Like I really like both of them, but at the same time, it was just like he was more kind of the storyteller, and he was good at it for real. But I mean, I don't know. I just wasn't. I liked him, but I just couldn't put him in that top 5.
Well, I think Tupac probably just speaks to the rebellion in you, anyways.
Probably so, but like I felt like he talked about so many different topics, and then like. He went from one end of the spectrum to the other for real. So
when he went to the West Coast, I really wasn't feeling Tupac. Like Gangsta Party, I wasn't on that.
Yeah, some of those songs like I really wasn't feeling for real, and it felt like those things were forced too. Like like it was more so like I'm doing this because
I'm with Death Row.
Yeah. So it was totally different from like what you were getting. You know, when he was either...
Keep your head up.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Black liberation. Yeah.
All right, look, I done stalled you way too long on that one question, but I think I've always wanted to ask you that question and have this debate, so I finally got to have it. So next question would be, what do you want your legacy to be when you leave?
Like, I'm kind of rooted in, like, family for real. My boys are my legacy. Like, they're like the coolest dudes ever. And like, I just want to make sure that like they're like pillars of the community for real. So like, they are really interesting guys. 3 different personalities, and like they really care about like other people for real. So like, I think that's the biggest thing is that like our objective is to put more people out here that care about people than people out here that are just kind of parasites to society for real. So, like that is my legacy. Like I've done something pseudo right in order to, kind of set them on the right track, and like hopefully like they'll, um, push out the same thing. Like if they have kids, like they'll be able to direct them, and like it'll just continue to grow, and like we'll continue to populate the earth with good people for real.
Populate the earth with all those Harrises.
Yes, we need it.
All right, so last question for the 5 questions game is, what principle do you live by?
The principle I live by. Um, I just my biggest principle is just like standing behind like what you say and what you do for real. Like associating your name with something, um, and just really putting your all into it for real. Um, Far too often, just in the element that I exist in right now, far too often we have people that they'll say one thing and then like the results aren't the same, and so it's just like just kind of living up to whatever it is that like you want your name to be for real. Like that's the hardest thing in the world and the easiest thing in the world to do for real. Just whatever you say, just make sure that you know it's your calling card for real. So that's it for me.
I see that. All right, so that was the 5 questions game. And so now we're actually going to get into your life, right? We're going to get into the real topic of the episode. So this is the point where you actually officially introduce yourself to the audience, because you've been a mystery person for 5 whole questions. But now that they know a little bit about you, now you can officially introduce yourself. So go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. So my name is Marcus Harris. I'm a visionary. Like I can't really pigeonhole myself and say I'm one particular thing, because like I'm all over the board. I'm kind of scatterbrained at times, but then also I try to make sure that um, that like I'm doing something progressive for real. Um, so I'm a social entrepreneur. Um, uh, I'm an advocate for the little people.
That's interesting. That's how you described yourself. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
A social entrepreneur
Yeah.
for the little people.
Right.
And who are the little people?
I think the little people is like, um, I don't know, like I have to kind of like take a step back and really talk about like what my idea of little people is for
Okay.
real. So America is really rooted in like capitalism for real. And so everything is geared towards like these large corporations and like people of influence and everything else. And so I think America has to have like an adjustment in like how we operate and like what's important to us for real. And so the little people are really like everyday people for real, because if you look at the way America's set up, it's really set up to where um, the common person is kind of taken advantage of for real. Um, so that's it. I mean, like we just kind of look towards helping the smaller people kind of band together and have that ant mentality, and really build out and make things happen through a little bit of work from everybody for real.
Sounds like a superhero.
Yeah.
helping the little guy is essentially what superheroes do. Help people that, I guess, not necessarily victims, but
Yeah, but it's really about just like empowering people for real, because like we really are capable of more than we give ourselves credit. And it's just really about having somebody else believe in you and like giving you like that extra nudge that pushes you out of your comfort zone and makes you have a belief that like you can do more than what you have kind of been programmed to not believe, I guess.
makes sense. So let's talk about growing up. So are you from Louisville or like where are you from?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Brooklyn, New York. Um, it was interesting. My mom's from Louisville. We ended up migrating back down to Louisville. Grew up on 26 in Greenwood. It was like the most interesting element you could ever imagine, for real. So it was a liquor store on the corner of 26 and Greenwood. And so, like, from 26 in Greenwood all the way down to 28th in Greenwood, well, the liquor store was actually on 28th in Greenwood. Like, that entire neighborhood, like, knew everybody knew each other, and it was just like it's probably 40 houses on the block, and everybody on the block like knew each other, and like uh, it was really like a family element for real. And so there was absolutely nothing you could do that didn't come back to your parents or to your grandparents or whatever else. So that was the most fun and the most adventurous and the most um, trying times like of my life for real. Like just growing up in the '80s, and then like just soaking up everything and being a knucklehead and interacting with all the other kids in the neighborhood and all the other adults in the neighborhood. Like it was just interesting just seeing like how life panned out for all of those different families and how like they're still connected in some form of fashion for real.
So growing up in Louisville, like how do you feel like growing up in, in the city has kind of shaped who you are today?
Mm, I don't know because I kind of feel like different um, than most people in the city for real. A lot of people that you meet kind of have like a negative outlook on the city, um, and a lot of people that grew up here look to kind of move to other places to, I guess, maximize their talent. And like, I really don't see it that way. Like, I look at Louisville as like the perfect breeding ground for opportunity for real. And so it's weird to me that like everybody else says that like Louisville is too small. And I feel like it's really like right because like there's so much like growth potential here for real. And instead of everybody taking advantage of those voids, everybody just kind of runs. And I feel like we've got like a flight problem, like all over Louisville for real.
So speaking of flight,
Hmm.
do you feel like your perspective is that way because you've had the opportunity to see other places in the world because you spent some time in the military? So do you feel like that has shaped your perspective in saying, okay, Louisville is a great city, but because of, you've seen other things, you can say that?
Probably so. I mean, I think that is like a large element in it is that like I've operated in like a super slow place in upstate New York, and then like I've also lived in New York City, and so uh, contrasting both of those, I feel like Louisville is like the perfect medium for real. So it's really like middle of the road. It isn't too fast and it isn't too slow, but then also it's right with like opportunity if you're actually looking for it for real.
Hmm. Okay. So let's talk about what you do. Um, so how's your personal and professional experiences kind of led you to becoming who you are, or basically doing what you do today? So you've done a little bit of everything, right? And now it's led you to entrepreneurship. So,
Right.
so how did that come about? Like, how did you decide, okay, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur?
So like I've kind of I'm one of those people that like have to put my hands on things to understand them, and so I've been in the military, been in corporate America, um, kind of did a little bit of everything, and I realized that I hate it, and so I think that's one of those internal reflection things is just like figuring out like what you can do with the rest of your life and what you can't do. And so when I was working this 9 to 5 job, like I was dressing up in suits and you know, getting prissy every day and going and punching a clock and sitting behind a desk and like staring at four walls and looking at numbers all day long. And it was just like, this is exhausting. And my ADD would just go through the roof. And like, I was just not able to exist in that element. And I don't know if it was because I was just a terrible employee or it was just that like my potential was capped. I just felt like that wasn't what I wanted to do. And like, I felt like there were so many more things um, that I could maximize my resources, um, which is my personal self. So like I feel like I'm a resource, and like I felt like my resources weren't being properly utilized, and so I came to the conclusion that the only way I could tap into my full potential is if I trusted myself and jumped out and faced my fears and just went out and did exactly what it is that I was passionate about and what I believed in.
That is amazing. However, a lot of people could be listening to this podcast and they could be on a 9 to 5 gig. So what did it take? Like what made you step outside of that box and be like, all right, I'm done with this 9 to 5? Like, that's not something that you just, everybody can just do.
Well, I mean, I think it's like breaking down that programming for real because, like, a lot of times, like, if you look at like our education system, it's kind of based on securities for real. And so, yes, if I go and I punch a clock for a 9 to 5, like, I can make a decent wage and like I have a degree of control in that, but at the same time, there's a major cap to that for real. And so I just decided that I wasn't gonna follow the rules because I don't like being constrained by other people's parameters. So it was just like I understand that there are gonna be a lot of hardships that come along with um, me just depending on my own resources and my own ambitions um, to feed my family. And so it was just like, if I'm gonna do this, like I have to totally commit to it and take the good with the bad and the bad with the good, and really just run with it, and just make sure like I had a strategy in order to get from where I am to where I want to be. And I just kind of just jump off the cliff for real. Like it was just like, if I built it once, I can build it again for real. So it was just like, I've invested enough in myself to be able to recover from anything that I endured for real.
So you described yourself as a resource. I think, I mean, I know you, so I know that you have an education, right? So when you talk about resources, you have a lot of things combined that helped you to be able to make that choice, right? So you have a master's degree, a whole MBA,
yeah,
right? You have, your military experience and, some of those things. So, I mean, I think you have like a combination of resources that help you to jump off the cliff, right?
absolutely.
So I think that's important. Okay, so next question would be, because you just talked about, you have ambition. So where do you draw inspiration? Where does it come from?
Um, I think it comes from like the sun. Like I feel like if the sun can come up consistently and thinking about what derives from the sun. So like everything grows based on the sun. And so it's just like if the sun can do it on a consistent basis, like I can too. Like if you think about like everything revolves around the sun for real. And so it's just like we have to be in touch with earth and everything that's in our atmosphere. And it's just like the sun is like the center of it all for real.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like um, I aspire to be exactly what it is. Like I aspire to make everything around me and everything that I touch grow exponentially for real. So it's just like that is the ambition that I want to be. Like I want to make sure that whatever I touch grows exponentially and is fruitful.
The sun.
The sun.
The sun always comes up.
Always. It's reliable. Reliability is everything.
That's definitely words to live by. Like, I get that. It's something simple, but often hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? So do you feel like we're going to just get a little bit deeper on this since you started talking about the sun? Do you feel like, what you're doing now is connected to your purpose, your God-given purpose, like why you exist?
I think to a degree, I think everything is connected really. So like what I do now is I basically deal in housing. And so one of the biggest problems in our neighborhood is that we have a flight problem. And so if you look at the community as a whole, it struggles in providing quality housing, but then also it's a proximity problem. And so all of the best and brightest are leaving from our community. And so the reason why they leave is because like they're not getting the value um, out of the housing. And so what I like to do is like I like to design and build quality housing that makes people feel at home. And so like the other part of that is that like if I'm able to lure people of influence and people who have experienced different um, aspects and resources as far as whether they're judges, lawyers, accountants, or whatever else. If we have those in our community, then we have a direct um, resource to look at. So it's like if all of these people that have all these advanced degrees and people that are entrepreneurs and everything else, if all of them are just kind of leaving the community and going out to these other places, then what about the people who are growing up? So like they don't have the doctor next door, they don't have the lawyer up the street, or they don't have all of those people. So my ambition is kind of to bring all of those people back into the community and change the makeup of the community. So it's really like we're not changing the people in the community, we're changing the mindset in the community for real. And so it's really about making it to where kids can formulate a strategy by connecting with the people who are actually walking through those aspects of life for real. So I feel like it is connected in that way because like we have to bring the people to the well for real.
So you mentioned kids.
Mm-hmm.
So people who are listening who don't know you also know that you started a nonprofit organization that serves kids too.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about the nonprofit organization and kind of how did that play a role with this vision that you just talked about?
Yeah. So Pride Leadership Academy is the nonprofit. We really wanted to connect all of the dots. So like there are so many issues in our community, but all of them revolve around four core issues for real. So you think about dietary health, physical health, mental health, and financial health. And so nobody wants to directly talk about any of those things because they're kind of boring. But like if you like add like another carrot to it, which is like the sport element, because like sport played a major role in my life from youth all the way through college, well, all the way through high school and college and, post college and everything else. But like we use sports to kind of talk about those four core elements and just kind of really get people involved with like making those small differences in their households and making those small differences in their communities for real. So PLA really just wants to get people to kind of focus on those four core elements, but then also to go out and just have fun for real.
And they do. They
I think so. It's kind of fun.
Attempted to help coach and Shout out to Wheatley Elementary School, because that was my school and my team. You guys are the best, even if we didn't win any games.
Hey, it's okay. You can't win them all.
Well, we won one game, but that was because your team helped us. But we're not going to talk about that. So, but Wheatley is still awesome. Shout out to Wheatley. So, being an entrepreneur, especially a minority entrepreneur, right, in the industry that you work in, you face adversity. There are setbacks. But what is your approach to handling adversity and setbacks?
To me, it's really just about being resilient for real. I mean, like, you kind of have to plan for and understand that there is no way to really avoid setbacks and failures and whatever else. It's really just about kind of building those insulators in. A lot of times, you just kind of have to just absorb it for real. I mean, it's just really about just kind of having a resilient mindset. And to me, like it really just kind of makes you stronger and makes you adapt to the idea that the world is kind of like that for real. It's just kind of a microcosm of like, how you have to deal with life for real. So, we just kind of absorb it, use it as a point of growth, and just ride with it.
Don't internalize it too much.
Nah, you can't really, because I mean, if you internalize it, like you'll dwell on it way too long, and then like you can negatively overcompensate and really get away from like what your overall intentions are for real with your business. So you just kind of absorb it, figure out what you can learn from it, and just grow and just keep it moving.
So, what is essentially, you got the nonprofit, you've got your company, without giving too much detail, what is essentially the end goal? Like, what do you hope to be able to accomplish in the future?
Really, just to kind of change like I said, just change the makeup of the community. Really want to kind of build out a more self-sustaining environment in the West End. I feel like there are so many voids that obviously shouldn't exist. And so I think like the overall goal is just to make it where it's a self-sustaining entity in the West End for real. And we can kind of help people grow within the community and make it to where they don't have to run to other places in order to maximize like who they are and what they can actually do.
Cool. The last question, this is for our listeners who may have an idea, want to start a business, who have been operating a business for a while and maybe have experienced some setbacks. What is your advice to listeners who haven't gotten started or may have faced opposition when they are trying to move forward with their vision?
I just read a book like over the last probably couple weeks. It's David Goggins. He's a really interesting dude. So he was a Navy SEAL. And like one of the most profound things that he kind of touched on numerous times in the book was getting comfortable being uncomfortable for real. And I think that's like where we grow the most is when we step outside our comfort zone for real. And so I think it's like the epitome of like existing in your greatness for real. It's just like pushing yourself and really going beyond like what you're comfortable with for real. So just living in the moment and just like not putting any sort of limitations on yourself for real. Because like everybody around you and everybody in the world is going to try to impose like their own personal limitations on you. And so like you have to be strong enough to not let your own personal limitations kind of hamper you down, because like everybody else in the world is really going to try to do just that for real.
It's good advice. So hopefully our listeners have listened to Marcus's story, and you have been inspired by what he said. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing questions and letting me drill you with all of my questions. Um, and and picking your brain. I appreciate it. So if you're listening, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this story. I hope that what you've heard tonight has blessed you, and that you would continue moving forward with the vision that you have. But until next time, be blessed.